Now there's another story coming out of this game, and it is the special whistle, or lack thereof, that A'ja Wilson is getting. And this isn't the first time.
They say rivalries are born in the fire of competition, but what's brewing between the Las Vegas Aces and the Indiana Fever has gone beyond competition. It's become a collision of egos, reputations, and the kind of heated moments that define seasons.
Man, I just wanted to point it out. I had to point it out, dog. There was no way, all right, that you can't tell me that the A'ja Wilson whistle isn't a thing. I remember this specific moment, right, where
at the center of the storm, none other than A'ja Wilson, the reigning MVP, the face of the Aces, and a player whose frustrations are starting to bubble over in ways that have the entire WNBA talking. It all came to a head in a showdown against the Fever, where Wilson's actions against rookie sensation Aaliyah Boston sparked outrage, igniting debates about favoritism, officiating, and whether the so-called A'ja Wilson whistle is a real thing. This wasn't just a basketball game. It was a snapshot of the shifting balance of power in the league. A moment where the defending champs looked mortal and the upstart Fever looked like the future. Early in the game, Boston went to work in the paint, backing down her defender with the kind of poise and power that has made her one of the most promising bigs in the league. But instead of clean defense, Wilson wrapped her arms from behind, locking Boston up for nearly 10 seconds.
Aaliyah Boston was backing down, trying to put the ball back up, and A'ja Wilson gets a jump ball after wrapping her arms clearly around from the backside.
To the shock of everyone watching, the whistle blew, not for a foul, but for a jump ball. The commentators were stunned, Boston was furious, and Fever fans lit up social media with accusations of special treatment. "She came from my back," Boston protested to the ref, disbelief in her voice. Even the broadcast crew couldn't hold back, pointing out the obvious. When you get someone from behind, it doesn't usually get you a jump ball. Wilson, grinning as she walked away, looked every bit like a player who knew she'd just gotten away with one. And this wasn't an isolated incident. Just weeks earlier on July 4th, Wilson had done something eerily similar against Lexi Hull, again coming over the back, again getting a jump ball call instead of a foul. Deja vu for Indiana, frustration for their fans, and fuel for the growing belief that Wilson gets a different whistle than the rest of the league. The Aces, meanwhile, were already showing cracks. Coming into the game, they were in the middle of an uncharacteristic slump, their championship swagger dulled by injuries and underwhelming performances.
But the Aces looking a little long in the tooth there in Vegas, that team, that core, just kind of sputtering at this point in time, slow-footed, and that's where I thought that the Fever could take advantage of the Aces, and they did. And
Indiana smelled blood. Even without their injured superstar, Caitlin Clark, the Fever played with urgency, led by Kelsey Mitchell's relentless scoring and Natasha Howard's third-quarter explosion. They had already demolished the Aces once that season, an 81-54 blowout on July 3rd that snapped a 16-game losing streak to Vegas. And they were about to prove it was no fluke. In that earlier win, Boston had outplayed Wilson so thoroughly that the box score barely told the story. Wilson might have scored 29 points, but she got almost no help. Her teammates combined to shoot a miserable 16% from the floor. Fast forward to July 24th, and the script was playing out again. This time, without Clark in uniform, Indiana still controlled the game, winning 80-70 and clinching the season series against the champs. Wilson had 20 points in the loss, but it was the most hollow 20 you could imagine. Her frustration was visible, her protest to the officials constant, and her physicality towing the line of what's acceptable. The moment with Boston was the flashpoint, but it wasn't the only sign that Wilson's composure was slipping. Just one night later, against the Minnesota Lynx, she got tangled with Kayla McBride and responded with a two-handed shove that sent McBride to the floor. The refs called a common foul, nothing more, leaving Lynx fans outraged and feeding the narrative that Wilson's status protects her from harsher punishment.
Natasha Howard, she came alive in the third quarter, dropping 11 points in the third quarter, giving us the lead, a 27-point third quarter without Kayla Clark. Who would have thought this team can score over 20 points in a quarter without...
And here's the thing. Wilson's career up to this point has been defined by dominance. Since joining the league in 2018, she's been the cornerstone of a dynasty, winning 2 championships and 2 MVP awards. She's been the kind of player opponents game plan around, the one you know will get hers no matter what. But this season has been different. The Aces, for the first time in years, look vulnerable. A mediocre record, mounting losses to teams they used to dominate, and a superstar showing cracks in her armor. It's a recipe for drama. On the other side of the court, the Fever are writing a completely different kind of story. Last season, Caitlin Clark transformed them from perennial lottery team to playoff contender in her rookie year, leading them in points, assists, and steals. She brought energy, swagger, and a competitive edge that the franchise had been missing for years. This year, even sidelined with a groin injury, Clark's presence looms large. She's still engaged, still fiery, even getting into it with referees from the bench. In a recent game against Connecticut, she had to be physically pulled away from an official after arguing a call, proving that her passion for the game isn't diminished by injury.
NBA referees look at A'ja Wilson literally mugging somebody, literally reenacting the now infamous Coldplay concert hug heard around the world that had 9.
The aftermath of that July 24th showdown didn't just leave a mark on the standings. It left a mark on the narrative of the 2025 WNBA season. Because what happened that night was more than the Fever winning a season series over the defending champs for the first time in forever. It was more than Caitlin Clark watching from the bench as her team, supposedly crippled without her, dismantled a team built to win titles. No, what happened that night was the kind of turning point you only recognize in hindsight when you look back and say, that's when the shift happened. For years, the Las Vegas Aces had been the gold standard. 2 championships, back-to-back MVPs for A'ja Wilson, and a roster so stacked it looked unfair. They were the team others measured themselves against. But dynasties don't last forever. And if you've been paying attention, you could see the cracks forming.
Million memes made about it over the last week when she's literally remaking that on the court by just mugging Aaliyah Boston. Oh shit, them WNBA referees turned into Ray Charles. The
defense wasn't as airtight, the bench wasn't as deep, the chemistry looked off. And then there was Wilson herself, still brilliant, still putting up numbers that would make most players jealous, but carrying herself with the body language of someone under siege. She wasn't just frustrated, she was furious. Furious at the refs, furious at her teammates, furious at the situation. And that frustration boiled over in the ugliest ways. The wraparound grab on Boston, the shove on McBride, the sarcastic laughs after no calls, the arms thrown up in disbelief. It was the body language of a player used to everything going her way who suddenly found herself stuck in quicksand. Meanwhile, Indiana was doing the opposite. Caitlin Clark might not have been on the floor, but her fingerprints were all over the Fever's identity. Last year, she dragged them to the playoffs for the first time since 2016, shattering attendance records and injecting life into a franchise that had been a punchline.
It's terrible. Like, absolutely terrible. I don't care that she had 20 points. The fakest 20 points ever. She was terrible. She was absolutely terrible.
She didn't just score, she led. She brought out the best in her teammates. She made them believe they could hang with anyone. And this season, even from the bench, she's still doing it. Look no further than her outburst against the refs in that Connecticut game. Most injured players would sit quietly, maybe cheer when their team scores, but not Clark. She was barking at officials, demanding accountability, refusing to let her team get pushed around. Assistant coach Brienne January had to pull her back, but the message was clear. Injured or not, she's still in the fight. That energy is contagious. And it's why players like Kelsey Mitchell have been playing like women possessed. Mitchell's scoring bursts have kept Indiana in games they had no business winning. Boston has been a rock in the paint, going toe-to-toe with Wilson and coming out on top more often than not. Natasha Howard's third-quarter takeover against Vegas, 11 points in a single frame, was the stuff of instant legend. And Nalissa Smith has been everywhere, hitting the glass, running the floor, doing all the little things that don't always make the highlight reels, but win games. In other words, the Fever have depth, heart, and a belief in each other. The Aces, right now, they have A'ja Wilson, and not much else. That's why the narrative is shifting.
Wilson, she gets the left hand on the ball, right? Slaps down, get her hand on the ball. Okay, cool. Still got it. Now, right here, watch this right hand now. Look at this right hand, y'all. Right hand.
Last year, Wilson could drop 29 and the Aces would cruise. This year, she can score 29 and they still lose by double digits. That's not just about stats, it's about leadership. Wilson's numbers are fine, but numbers don't inspire. Numbers don't pull a team out of a slump. And right now, instead of lifting her squad, she's dragging them into her spiral of frustration. It's a bad look and people are noticing. MVP voters, for one. A month ago, Wilson was the frontrunner again. Now, with Las Vegas stumbling and Minnesota's Nafisa Collier playing out of her mind, that race looks wide open. The Arjar Wilson whistle conversation isn't helping either. Fair or not, perception matters. And when fans see a star getting away with physical play that would send anyone else to the bench with fouls, it breeds resentment. Social media has been relentless. Clip after clip of Wilson's wrap-ups, grabs, and shoves, paired with sarcastic captions about the refs forgetting their glasses. The viral moment of her grinning after the Boston play has been memed into oblivion. And every time she gets another questionable call in her favor, the narrative grows. The league can ignore it for now, but eventually, the optics will force their hand. For Indiana, this is all gravy. They're not supposed to be here, at least not yet. That's the kind of underdog story that makes fans fall in love with a team. And make no mistake, the Fever aren't just winning, they're winning with personality. Boston's quiet dominance, Mitchell's swagger, Howard's fire, and of course, Clark's presence on the sideline, hyping up her teammates and jawing at the refs like she's already...
How do you even breathe on Asia Wilson? I can't whistle. You get the point. I mean, they're hitting a buzzer. The pressure luck buzzer. The whammy starts coming out. All right, the whammy starts.